Good afternoon, Montfort Knights. So tomorrow, November 11th, is Veterans Day, and so today's convivium is about veterans. The day before Veterans Day is also a special day. November 10th is the Marine Corps' birthday. The United States Marine Corps was established on November 10th, 1775, exactly 247 years ago today. So today's convivium is not only a celebration of our veterans, but also a birthday party for the United States Marine Corps, complete with a birthday cake that we will cut in a special way in about 45 minutes from now, and all of you can have a piece of cake. So we have three special guests. We have Staff Sergeant JEREMIE from the United States Army, Sergeant First Class NUNEZ, United States Army, and Staff Sergeant Victor CARVALHO, United States Marine Corps. So you know them, actually, because they've come, and at the soccer game and at the volleyball games, the United States Army made us dog tags, both for the soccer and the volleyball teams, and so we say thank you to them. And Sergeant CARVALHO came to Montfort for our college fair. So they will share with us a little bit about their experiences in the United States Army and in the United States Marine Corps. So would you please welcome all our special guests here today with a nice warm welcome. And Latin students, particularly our freshman Latin students, what do we say to Sergeant CARVALHO on the occasion of the Marine Corps' birthday? So on three. 1, 2, 3. Good. Great, great, great. On October 12th, 1954, President Dwight Eisenhower, who had served with distinction in World War II as the Supreme Commander of Allied forces in Europe against Nazi Germany, issued Proclamation 3071, establishing Veterans Day as a national holiday. He wrote in the proclamation, "Whereas it has long been our custom to commemorate November 11th, the anniversary of the ending of World War I, by paying tribute to the heroes of that tragic struggle, and by rededicating ourselves to the cause of peace. And whereas in the intervening years, the United States has been involved in 2 other great military conflicts, which have added millions of veterans, living and deceased, to the honor rolls of the nation. And whereas, in order to expand the significance of that commemoration, and in order that a grateful nation might pay appropriate homage to the veterans of all of its wars, who have contributed so much to the preservation of this nation, the Congress, by an act, approved June 1st, 1954, to change the name of the holiday from Armistice Day to Veterans Day. Now, therefore, I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, President of the United States of America, do hereby call upon all of our citizens to observe Thursday, November 11th, 1954, as Veterans Day, and that let us solemnly remember the sacrifices of all those who fought so valiantly on the seas, in the air, and on foreign shores to preserve our heritage of freedom. And let us reconsecrate ourselves to the task of promoting an enduring peace so that their efforts shall not have been in vain." It's difficult to imagine what the United States would be like if we didn't have in our midst those who were and are willing to fight to protect our freedoms. Actually, I don't want to imagine it. America would be a very dark place without our veterans, without our military service members and their service. Our country has been blessed by generations of brave men and women who unhesitatingly sacrifice even their lives so that their fellow Americans might continue to live free. But as we know, freedom is definitely not free. Its cost is counted in flesh and blood and sorrow. The willingness of some to give their lives so that others might live never fails to evoke in us a sense of wonder and mystery. And what is it that makes a soldier so brave to offer selflessly his entire being for his country? Well, the answer is simple, but it's also profound. It's love. Whether you ask me or the most hardened warrior, he or she will tell you they fight for love. G.K. Chesterton once said, the true soldier fights not because he hates what's in front of him, but because he loves what's behind him. And what's behind him? God, country, family, friends, fellow soldiers, fellow sailors, fellow airmen, fellow Marines. Reflecting on this profound thought, James Bradley, the author of Flags of Our Fathers, about the raising of the flag at Iwo Jima, that famous scene of 5 Marines and 1 sailor setting the flag in the ground, wrote, "I didn't realize that it was the quality of love that won the Battle of Iwo Jima, a Marine's love for his fellow Marine." Now, most soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen do not have to give their lives, but they are called to do so if necessary. And when they leave military service, they're called veterans. Now, the word veteran was first used as a sign of distinction for retired military in 1509 in Great Britain. It derives from the Latin vetus, veteranus, which in turn comes from the root vetus, which means aged, old, and experienced, with an emphasis on the experienced. It means a lifetime of discipline, a lifetime of practice of virtue. So as Americans, we should always honor our veterans. We should recognize their commitment to and love of our nation. The Department of Veterans Affairs website says there are more than 19 million veterans alive in America today, or about 1 in 17 people who have served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and other places where our country has needed them. Montfort's been blessed to be surrounded by veterans and their example of character and virtue. Many of our fathers, grandfathers, great-grandfathers, uncles, mothers, and aunts are veterans. We were blessed when Lieutenant General Brent Scowcroft, United States Air Force, former National Security Advisor, came to speak with our students. Blessed when Admiral Lunny of the United States Navy, who sadly passed away in March, who served in both the Korean War and Vietnam War, came to Montfort not just once, not twice, but 3 times to speak with us. We also had Frank Barbieri, Joseph Durnan of the United States Air Force, who served in the Vietnam War, who spoke with us 2 years ago. And of course, we say thank you to former Montfort Headmaster, Lieutenant Colonel David Petrillo, United States Air Force, not only for his military service to our country, but also his many years of service to Montfort. And we say thank you to many Montfort alumni who are either still active duty or are already veterans, such as Luis Enriquez, Montfort 06, United States Army; Desmond Slattery, Montfort 07, United States Army; Paul Barnard and Jose Castro, Montfort 09, both who served as cadets, and one now studying to be a priest. John Crett, Montfort 2010, United States Coast Guard; Ben Rodriguez, Montfort 12, United States Army; Jana Rosenthal, Montfort 13, United States Air Force; Joe Petrillo, Montfort 17, United States Air Force; Richard Greco III, Montfort 19, United States Marine. And today, I am proud to announce that on Monday, November 14th, just 4 days from now, our senior, Austin Pfaff, will enlist in the United States Marine Corps. Congratulations, Austin. These Montfort Knights were inspired about what they learned here at Montfort, their love for country, their love for what's behind them, as G.K. Chesterton said, and the example of many individuals. Admiral Lunny, actually, I have here the prayer card from his funeral, which I carry in my pocket often, came to Montfort to speak about a miracle that he witnessed. He served on a ship in the Korean War that was designed for no more than 20 people, yet miraculously held 14,005 North Koreans as they fled the North. The church is now investigating this miracle and has made the ship's captain a servant of God, the first step towards sainthood. We even had a World War II veteran, James Nolan, who is now almost 100 years old, United States Army, who came to speak at Montfort a few years ago about his book, To Hell and Gone. He described being in a church in Europe that came under massive assault and said, "With a little prayer, I opened the big door of the church and entered. The moonlight coming in the windows was sufficient to see that the church was empty, but I had to check the choir loft and the belfry, that when we usually found artillery spotters, snipers, and machine gunners there. Feeling around in the dark, I found the ladder to ascend to the choir loft. I didn't get but a few strides when 7 shells burst through the left side wall. The roof and its large beams were now getting blasted as more shells poured in and struck the walls on the right side of the nave. I knew I wasn't going to live through this, as massive beams and roof slates were falling around me, as more shells poured into this holy place. I said, Jesus, I'm ready to go to you. Please forgive me my sins. At that moment, I felt as if somebody was standing at my right shoulder. I knew in my heart it was Jesus. And that is how I introduced him to Montfort Knights when he spoke here in 2016, a man close to God. In Westchester, we're surrounded by reminders of our veterans, and our students recognize this. Last year, for example, Hannah Jagazar and Michaela Brown, 2 Montfort Knights of virtue and strong character, took on a project after hearing about a minor tragedy. During COVID, you may remember, the Army set up a camp hospital at the Westchester County Center. As they were setting up the camp, the Army Corps of Engineers needed to clear some trees in order to make room and to avoid trees from falling on the camp. Completely innocently, the Corps removed trees that were actually planted 100 years ago as a memorial to World War I heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice. When Hannah and Michaela and several other members of Mr. Motorelli's European history class heard about this, they immediately began researching the original memorial and the biographies of those veterans that the memorial recognized. They proposed a major project to the Westchester County Parks Department for the reestablishment of the memorial with the planting of new trees, and I am happy to say that thanks to their hard work and upstanding reputation, which the Parks Department recognized, the Parks Department decided to rebuild the memorial. And today, those trees are now replanted and those World War I veterans are alive again. Hannah and Michaela, would you stand and be recognized? And would you please come forward and help 4 of those veterans come alive?
As Mr. Greco said, last year during European history, we were talking about war, and as extra credit, he said if you search up veterans from the White Plains, you would get extra credit. And then he came to Hannah and I and said, do you guys want to start a club of this, and do you want to actually say it to the Westchester Parks Board to help, get recognition for these veterans? And we did that, and with the help of fellow juniors, we were able to actually accomplish that. They wrote like a paragraph on these veterans that most people don't know that were from New York. And right now, Hannah and I will say 4 of those veterans that we thought were important for New York, and we will, elaborate on them. So the first one is Edwin E. Paul. He was born and raised in White Plains. He belonged to the 107th Infantry and the 27th Division. He was killed in action on September 29, 1918. He received a Distinguished Service Cross for his heroism. Paul exposed himself to many things to save the lives of his other comrades. When a soldier was injured and was gonna die, he sacrificed his own life to save that soldier. While in the process of saving that soldier, he was fatally shot with the bullet and died. He was a heroic hero and a selfish man. The next man we're going to talk about is Enrico Lucarelli. He was born in Rome and lived in White Plains after moving to America. He was killed in the Agrone Forest, where him and his fellow troops were trying to rescue 195 soldiers. They did that successfully, but he did die on the day that they were all rescued. And he will forever be missed and died a hero.
The third person we want to talk about is Simon Schroeder. He was born in 1895 in Russia and then migrated here, where we don't have any birth date or any record because oftentimes his name is misspelled. One of the most common spellings is Zygmunt Schroeder. He died September in 1918, 9 months after he enlisted, in one of the deadliest, bloodiest battles of the war. This battle being the Battle of Meuse-Argonne, which killed alone over 26,000 people. Him and many others who died in this battle helped end the war because it was one of the greatest American battles. Through our project, were able to find exactly where he was buried, which is the Meuse-Argonne American Cemetery, in which we found that he was buried in row 17 in the grave number 23. Another soldier that we wanted to recognize was Joseph M. Alois, an 18-year-old private born and raised in New York. He was in the 7th Infantry, or the 3rd Division, when he was tragically killed in action on July 15, 1918. It was the first day of the Second Battle of Marne, which was a very decisive battle, leading to Germany's last major offensive play in the war. Alois's division, the 3rd one, was bombarded for 3 long hours and was infected with poison gas attacks by the German before the last major initial attack. The Americans were able to win this battle because they refused to accept defeat in what later led to hand-to-hand combat. The decisive role of all the leaders led to the naming of the Rock of Marne, due to the 3rd Division's persistence to fight and is still around today as one of the most decorated divisions, having over 60 medals of honor. After doing this project, we got the chance to greater appreciate the hard and courageous work that all soldiers and Marine members do for us. We are able to realize and thank the soldiers and Marines sitting right here. From the Montfort Academy, we thank you for all your hard work, service, courage in protecting all of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Michaela, for your hard work and dedication and character and service to Montfort. And so now we have the pleasure of hearing from Sergeants JEREMIE and NUNEZ and CARVALHO. And so who would like to speak first? Okay, very good. Staff Sergeant JEREMIE.
Good afternoon. My name is Staff Sergeant JEREMIE, and I am a career counselor at Mount Vernon Recruiting Station. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Haiti. I was in a Catholic school, just like you guys. I went to University of Notre Dame of Haiti for med school. I spent 2 years, but I found out the hard way that med school wasn't for me, so I dropped out. I moved to the United States on November 2013 and joined the Army on April 2014 as a water treatment specialist. My job basically is to purify water. When I say water, any kind of water, like seawater, chemical water, to turn it into a drinkable water. I joined the Army because I wanted to travel. And since I joined, I've been in places like South Korea twice. I was stationed there. I was stationed at Fort Lewis, that's in Washington State, Fort Campbell in Kentucky, and I went on a couple missions. While I was on mission, I was able to visit London, Germany, Somalia, Ethiopia, and Djibouti, and also Japan. Today, one of my little cousins asked me, what does Veterans Day mean to me? I had to think about it for a second. I want you guys to picture a country where women are not allowed to go to school, women are not allowed to drive, where you cannot express yourself, express your opinion. A country where you only allow 1 meal a day, where you don't have access to internet. That's not a country that you would like to live in, right? But I think Veterans Day means freedom to me because that freedom comes with a cost. The cost is the sacrifice of every soldier, not only soldiers, but every Marines, every sailor, every airman, every spaceman that are willing to give up their freedom for you to enjoy your freedom, for you to want to be who you want to be and what you want to be in our society. So that's what Veterans Day means for me. Appreciate it, and now I will pass it to Sir NUNEZ.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Sergeant NUNEZ. I am also a career counselor here in the Westchester area. I am from Yonkers, so I'm kind of from the area. The reason there's many reasons why I decided to join the Army. I think one of them at the time when I graduated high school, I wasn't too happy about going to school. Little did I know that as soon as I got in the Army, college is for you to move to the ranks. It doesn't matter where you end up. You need college. So now I'm working on my master's degree, but it was something that I never thought I would get to because it was one of the reasons I joined the Army. But the main reason I would say it was 9/11. So I am a little older, I think, than these folks. When 9/11 happened, and it's a day that I'll never forget. What that did to our community, the way I felt about what was happening to what just happened to our country, I felt like I had to do something. So as soon as I graduated high school, I joined the Army, and from there I went on multiple deployments to Iraq, other places in Africa. I've been very fortunate, been able to travel to 74 different countries and experience a lot of things that never in my wildest dreams I imagined I would experience. So that's the reason I joined the Army. And what does Veterans Day mean to me? It's something that I'm very proud of, to call myself a veteran. It's something that, I don't know if you guys are aware, only about 1% of our population in this country actually serves in our military. So it's something that I'm super proud of, and it means a lot to me. Thank you.
Montfort. Thank you for having me. Like stated before, my name is Staff Sergeant Carvalho. I'm with the United States Marines. A little bit about myself. I actually am an immigrant. I was born in Portugal, came here in 1998. We ended up in New York. And a little bit about myself, I actually grew up around the area myself. I went to a Catholic school, St. Joseph's Church. I grew up around that environment my entire life, so that is something that I'm really big on, my faith. I truly do carry that with me until the day that I rest. Now, the big reason why I decided to enlist, well, it's pretty simple. If anybody who has sat with me hasn't, asked or couldn't figure out, I joined because of my family, because of love. That's really one of the biggest factors of me serving. Not only love for the people in this country, because this really is a beautiful country when you really take the time to appreciate everything, but my family. It gave my family a home. My family would have never had a chance back in Portugal. There's just no way. So when 9/11 happened, I was actually, I'll never forget it, I was at Columbus Elementary School. It was third grade, we all got locked up. I thought it was a movie. I really thought it was a movie. I'd never seen evil like that. I truly have not, and I just couldn't understand what everybody was going through. While yes, that did play a factor into why I enlisted, really, again, it was because of my family. It gave my family a home, and I wanted to repay back this country for providing my family with food on the table at night and a place to sleep to rest our heads. So I decided to enlist, but not just enlist with any branch. I truly went after the best. I read about the legacy. I read about honor, courage, and commitment, and I was mind blown. I was truly at ease with the choice that I made. I love everything about the Marine Corps, and I plan on turning this into a career and really like living the lifestyle. Once I got done with my first 4 years, I traveled the world. I've been all the way from Europe, Africa, Japan. I've been everywhere. You name it, I've been there. I stepped foot on that ground, and my first 4 years were dedicated to my parents. My second 4 years were really about the future and starting a life for myself. A little bit about that. I'm actually recently married. I got married to my childhood sweetheart. I absolutely love her. Yeah, we got married, so I really wanted to start a family. I'm really passionate about cars, so I drive a lot of fancy vehicles, but it was time to put that to the side so I could provide for my future family. And eventually, when I start a family and have a child, I want him or her to really be afforded all the luxuries I never had in life. Not to say I'm gonna spoil them, but I really would like them to live a much more comfortable life. And Veterans Day, really, what it boils down to is legacy. With the Marines, we're really big on legacy and tradition. For me, it was a man by Andrew Huerta. He was a veteran that I had the pleasure of serving with, and to be completely honest with you, if it wasn't for him, I would not be alive here today. And it's not to say that it's because of the military and what I went through. It was really here at home. I was fighting my own set of demons just like every single one of you have. And I'm glad to say that man helped me get through them. So it's really about honoring him and the people that I have served with as well. But I truly do appreciate you guys having me. I know, obviously, you guys are busy, and with Veterans Day around the corner, I really do appreciate your support. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sergeant Jeremie, Sergeant Nunez, and Sergeant Carvalho. Now, just with a quick show of hands, how many of you have questions? Okay, so I think that we could do them here. I was going to say we could do them in the gym because that's our next stop is to go to the gym. So let's answer Gian and Father Leo your questions. Did anybody else have the hand? I didn't see. All right, we'll go very, very quickly. So do you want to start, Gian? Right now, as you know, the military is rich with tradition, many of those traditions going back, well, 247 years, because it's not just the Marine Corps' 247th birthday, that happens to be today, but the Army is from June of 1775, And then the Navy is from October of 1775, and the Marine Corps, November of 1775. So all three branches are 247 years old. The Air Force, if I'm not mistaken, is 1947, coming out of the Army with the United States Air Corps from the United States Army. So written with the blood, literally, written with the blood of Marines are the names: Chosin Reservoir, Guadalcanal, Bella Woods, Iwo Jima. Even before our country was a country, the raid in the Bahamas, and soon after independence, Derma on the shores of Tripoli. No matter how much the odds were against us, the United States Marines have always won and have always defended and protected America against threats and tyranny. And with the American flag always in their hearts and hands, Marines have bravely and proudly raised our American banner throughout the world. And among the men who served on Iwo Jima, memorialized in the statue I referred to earlier, and raised that flag, there is a saying, uncommon valor was a common virtue. So almost 20 years ago, I served as our nation's Assistant Secretary of the Navy and worked every day with Marines of honor, courage, and commitment. Great Marines like my friend, Marine Corps General Peter Pace, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Marine Corps Colonel Barney Barnum, Vietnam Medal of Honor recipient and fellow Assistant Secretary of the Navy, my dear friend, Marine Corps Chief Warrant Officer, the Honorable Bill Chatfield, head of the United States Selective Service, and my Bible study companion at the Pentagon, and my own military and Marine Corps captain, military aide Captain Carlos Ibarra, and so many more. Now, one other Marine that I met in 2005 served in the Iraq War of 2002, Marine Sergeant Willie Copeland III. When his platoon was ambushed in an attack by insurgents, Sergeant Copeland led 5 Marines out of the heaviest fire. He found cover and fought off the enemy in close combat. And when his commanding officer fell wounded, Sergeant Copeland used his body to shield the officer as he administered first aid. For his leadership and dedication to duty, the Department of the Navy awarded Sergeant Copeland the Navy Cross. And the single greatest privilege that I had in my years serving as Assistant Secretary of the Navy was to pin the Navy Cross on Sergeant Copeland. After the ceremony, he was embarrassed by all the attention and said that he was only doing what every Marine would do. He said, "There's nothing natural about running into bullets, but it was more important for me to make sure my men were okay." It's a great Marine Corps tradition to celebrate the Marine Corps' birthday, and today, again, is the 247th birthday of the Marine Corps, and we are honored to have Sergeant Carvalho, of course, along with Sergeants JEREMIE and NUNEZ as well, and we are also honored to have our own Montfort Knight, Austin Pfaff, who on Monday is going to enlist in the Marine Corps. So the Marines have a beautiful tradition. The oldest Marine and the youngest Marine are recognized, and together they cut the birthday cake, and the oldest Marine gives a piece to the youngest Marine, almost like a bride and groom at their wedding, giving each other the piece of cake. Remember, it's out of love, and every one of these men mentioned that, right? It's a love that bonds them even across generations and allows them to fight for one another. And so, as the oldest Marine here, I will have Sergeant Carvalho cut the cake and have him, he gets the first piece himself, and then he will cut a piece for Austin, even though Austin is not yet a Marine. Just symbolically, we will give the piece to Austin as the youngest Marine in the room as well. So, would you like to cut the cake? Nope, we use the sword.
this night, okay.